Fashion. It's a German-based sustainability consulting service operating since 2011, so for the last 13, 14 years, in global supply chains, mainly in Asia, North Africa, and Europe. So our customer group are the manufacturing tiers, really, so working with all the tiers, implementing. Back in the days when we started, it was really about sustainability and classical compliance, which was quite a new topic 15 years back. Today we are much more specialized in everything related to environmental compliance, water management, chemical management, textile waste management. We're currently holding the only global industry standard for textile waste management in factories. And our key operation area is to establish circular supply chains, and this is also what I would like to talk a bit more in detail about today. Our team is all over the globe, so core team is in Europe, and then we have several team members, especially in the key countries that we're working in. One of them is also, of course, Pakistan, where we have been working since many years. I think I had that slide last time, but just to indicate a little bit how we work or with who we work, this is just to give some examples. A lot of our projects are falling into the field of development cooperation beyond aid or sustainable development. So as you can see, a big stakeholder group of our customers is actually international organizations or governments that are paying us to establish circular systems in specific countries or regions. We work with a lot of initiatives and foundations. Brands are not necessarily our customer group, but often involved in our projects. And our main customer group is the manufacturers themselves that we mainly work with. Just to give an idea, we work in different fields that I have clustered here, sort of as service packages. It's the first one is really to establish a sustainable roadmap for a facility. I do originally come from brand side. I have been working many years as head of sustainability in brands. My job was to fly out to the supply chains and push a lot of our requirements to the manufacturers. And this was not to my liking, so that's really why I studied close to fashion, to really serve and support the manufacturing tiers in their own mission. As you all know, manufacturing groups are massive entities that give a lot of employment to people in their communities. And they should have their own roadmap for sustainability, and that's really like what we try to identify, to not only work on what is addressed to you, requirements that come your way, but what's your real identity in sustainability and that mission for yourself. The second work package, as I said, that's really our historical background, is compliance and to embed sustainability in the manufacturing processes. That could be classical workplace health and safety, chemical, water management, and so on. Work package number 3, we've been talking about textile waste quite a bit yesterday and today already. That is really these days our core focus. As I said, about 8 years ago, we have started to develop an own standard, which currently still is the only standard in the industry. It's the Textile Waste Management Standard by CLF, which is an extremely comprehensive assessment system with 120 different assessment points towards establishing standard operation procedures in manufacturing tiers. And the last one of our work packages, I will also give some examples later, is a very important one because, of course, if we all talk about waste and if we talk about recycling, we also have to bring this back into products. So really identifying quality performance standards for recycled materials, matching them with products that they could be reintroduced into, also looking into products in the first phase when they're created for the first time, to design. I don't know why this slide is shown, a little bit pixelated, sorry for that. But yeah, just to give an overview of the waste management standard procedure that we are conducting currently in about 150 facilities every year. Means we're coming on site as a team of assessors. We are checking the whole waste management procedures over the course of 1 to 3 days, depending how large the facilities are. This means looking into risk management, so standard operation procedures, trainings, verification of further usage, collecting, monitoring of waste, inventory data, and so on, to have a full picture of how a facility is operating. We then supply corrective action plans to help improve facilities. The action plan also considers everything related to HICFM, to GIS, and also recyclers needs. so that you really can serve as a provider of feedstock and data to the industry to enable circularity. This is just some images of the work. And now to dive a little bit into what I would like to talk about today. I've been touching on this a little bit in the panel yesterday already, but the role of the different stakeholders to enable a circular supply chain. What are the challenges, limitations, what are maybe best practice? I did not list everything, it's quite comprehensive, and for some stakeholder groups there's a lot of topics to address, but just to give a little idea, we're going to look into every different stakeholder of the supply chain and give a little outlook here. First of all, I think we all know our supply chain setups. The different parties that we need to enable circularity are listed here, and I'm going to go more specifically individually in each of them. Of course, it's in the beginning, the tiers of, it's now a little bit mixed. This is not the actual supply chain setup because we go in the topics how we enable circular supply chain. But of course, spinning, fabric production, a garment or product, because a lot of circularity right now is not necessarily going into apparel, but it's going also in automotive, in insulation, other textile-related products. The waste handlers, textile recyclers, brands, or product providers, retailers, and then a very, very important party that sometimes is forgotten are the legislators. I'm starting with the brands, and this is actually a label I found in a waste handler last week in Tunisia, and I thought, yeah, this is the enemy. I found it. 99% cotton, 1% elastane. Thank you. You just created a massive amount of waste because of this 1% now. It will be very difficult to use that because you contaminated 99% pure cotton by adding 1% elastane, making a material that is then potentially not recyclable. As we all know today, recycling technology is quite limited when we look into higher value proposition creation in recycling. We have a lot of downcycling that can also use a lot of blended materials, obviously, but that also means it's only going in short staple fiber, it's going in filling materials, it's going in fleece, and in non-woven materials. But of course, what we want to achieve is that we reutilize our textile waste in the highest value proposition possible. And that means if we look into brands, that is already one of the biggest challenges that we are currently facing, is obviously the massive amount of fiber blends that they are designing into their products, really. And I would call it probably wasteful design, really, is also, and that is a little bit tricky part, and I'm not sure if you can achieve much optimization here, is low mini-marker efficiency. As we all know, whoever here works in the garment manufacturing tiers, there's easily 20%, 25% waste in the cutting process. So obviously here to optimize would already reduce the waste amounts. What is something that is a little bit difficult or a bit too advanced to us to look into is also the dye stuffs that brands use or the products they create that need certain dye stuffs or finishings. For example, optical brighteners that later have to be sorted out from the waste materials because it cannot go back into recycling. Yeah, there are chemicals that should not be in a product because they do not enable certain higher value proposition recycling possibilities. And then what we also have is a lack of understanding how to reintroduce recycled materials into the product, and a lot of efforts are going wasted right now of recyclers trying to introduce recycled fibers, and brands do not adapt them into their collections simply because they have certain requirements or ideas how a quality or performance should look like. So really what we need to target is better design for recyclability, having the end of life in mind, working with monomaterials, working with design for disassembly so different components can be detached, clear material declarations. In a lot of countries this is not mandatory, meaning when the waste is coming back, we don't even know what kind of waste type it is. To give an example actually of our work to address that kind of topic, this is our project here in Pakistan with the company Nissan, Chilani, Kolachi, Gatron, Mundia, Pinnacles. So we work with a group of manufacturers in the Karachi area mainly. One is based in Lahore. where we have been looking now into, for example, tents. So this is not an apparel product as an example, but a textile-related product. To look into how to redesign this product. It has nearly 100 different components. So how to bring that back into a cycle? Obviously, we need to redesign. We need to create parts of it as monomaterials, and we need to make them detachable so that we can bring them into different recycling streams. Another project, I think I also had that here with me last time, is a little bit with the same consortium of people, is where we have been looking into disaster relief blankets. It's a massively growing market, humanitarian aid. This product is 100% recycled. It used to be virgin material. Of course, already ideal for recycling because it's a monomaterial. What we have been doing here is setting up waste management infrastructure in all the facilities, reutilizing with all the project partners these waste materials. We have been investigating what can we make out of the fibers, and we reintroduced it with 50% into the product, and then 50% we had to compensate with PET bottle recycling. But as you can see, we conducted a life cycle assessment, or better to say product carbon footprint calculation, and reduced the impact by nearly 60% of the product. So, if we look into the spinning part, which is one of the most complex parts to enable circularity, it's really the R&D. There is so much testing and trying and failing in spinning capacity to really introduce recycled materials. It comes often with lower quality. You have to introduce it with maybe only a certain percentage. You have to adjust it to your machinery. Of course, you have running operations, so when to really try this out in your operations, you have to allocate human resource, time, funding, budget, R&D time, and so on. So that is quite a challenge, and I feel we're often asking for recycled material, but we're not so much actually giving to support to the lower tiers, upstream tiers, to support them also in this whole process, which is very time intense and labor intense. So yeah, here also really to provide capacity building, to establish collaborations. Brands do often not go so far in their supply chains, but really to say, if we need a product out of this, how would it need to look like, and how can we be of support? That could be something as a best practice. And then, of course, to create procurement agreements and strategies to ensure you have a constant feedstock flow of these materials in the same consistency, so you can make also a scalable product out of it as a spinning mill or later a fabric producer. I brought one example here. This is a collaborative approach in a project we did in Indonesia. We're currently doing a very similar one in Morocco with Decathlon, where we started collecting all the textile waste from their manufacturing partners and then matching this with different kinds of recycling technologies locally and globally, seeing where we get the highest value output, and then bringing it back into products. Ooh, okay, time's going fast. Then we come to the manufacturing groups, and as we all know, that's where actually the most waste happens. I just want to say, for everyone who's here representing a spinning mill or a fabric mill, this is the highest value waste, so it is super important to really collect that accurately and bring it back into the system, because often when we talk about textile waste, we really think about the garment manufacturing and cutting waste, but the really high value waste comes from spinning and weaving or knitting. If we look into product manufacturing, let's say garment or whatever other textile related product is here assembled, then obviously most of the time, as I said, we do these assessments in on average 150 facilities every year. Waste is not sorted, collected, monitored properly. There is no accurate inventory data. The inventory data is not classified in material compositions, amounts that happen. So very difficult to actually understand what waste is available, in which quantities, in which material compositions. And also most factories do not verify where the waste is going after it's leaving the factory gate. And that is extremely important, because if we don't follow up where the waste is going, how can we ensure a recycling industry, right? Because you basically lose control over the materials and you're not supporting the enabling of a circular supply chain. Okay, I'm just jumping a little bit. This is a project we did last year in Cambodia, for example, where we qualified 21 factories on their waste management. In Cambodia, at that moment, there were only 2 recyclers in the local market. officially, the export of textile waste is illegal, so we try to match the waste within the country and been sorting the waste basically to the needs of these two recyclers and trying to bring it back into the system, because at that point most of these factories were actually burning the waste nearly 100%, as waste has no value in the country, so you don't make an effort of matching it with a waste handler or preparing it for someone to pick up. A very big project we started last year, which is now expanding into Cambodia and then into 3 to 4 other countries, is the Circular Fashion Partnership Program. We conduct this in partnership with it's financed by H&M Foundation in partnership with Global Fashion Agenda, Reverse Resources and Circular Economy, where we go country by country. We assess the full waste flow in each country. We qualify 30 to 50 factories in each country for textile waste management, and then matching the waste with recycling infrastructures within the country or with global partners. And we have a lot of brand partners in these projects. We have Adidas, Lululemon, H&M, and a few other brands that then also try to reintroduce the materials that will be recycled out of this project. And I think this is a very, very important point, obviously, to build this kind of collaborations. Do I still have time? I'm running out of time, okay. Okay, I'm going in this one still. Just one more. It's the waste handler part and the decolorization. I would like to talk about that very much because I have been in Satyana on site for the last few days. So I would like to talk a little bit about this because it's very much related to the Pakistani context. But yeah, if we talk about the waste handling sector, which obviously is one of the most important parts to enable circularity, this is mostly an informal sector, which is not the biggest challenge of it. But the thing is, they are often not registered entities. They are not set up to prepare materials, for example, for export. A lot of them don't even have a baling machine. They don't have license, they cannot make documents for export. They are not accustomed to custom regulations and so on. So really, how can they supply their materials, for example, to certain recyclers is nearly impossible. So often it stays only in a localized context where maybe only lower value proposition of recycling is available. So here we really need advancement and to improve and uplift waste handlers with capacity building, with better technology in sorting also. The labor conditions are not always ideal, and to really also become a visible supply chain partner. And a lot of times we do not know waste handlers, they don't have a website. It's very hard to find a waste handler, but to give them more visibility and to build them up as partners is something very important. And we announced it briefly yesterday, but I want to announce it now one more time, is that we currently pilot phase 1 for the Satyana project, meaning we're looking into, there's about 100 to 150 facilities for decolorization right now. It's a quite water wasteful process. So what we're trying to do here, rushing through the presentation, okay, is to support and identify also suitable water treatment possibilities for this whole cluster, which is now consuming and releasing the water and not reutilizing it. And we talk about very, very large amounts of water, but also better bleaching technologies. As you can see, that is quite a simple or primitive or like historically grown bleaching process. But of course, today we have so much better technology for more efficient and better bleaching capacity. So yeah, if anyone is interested, also please reach out either to me or Nautex or Reverse Resources to add you into that project scaling phase. Okay, I'm stopping, sorry.
Thank you very much, Marina. Because the organizers asked me to even cut down the time for
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going here, bye.
Thank you so much, Marina. So unfortunately, we don't have any time for the questions. Yeah. So obviously, Marina is here, so we can catch up with her later. Thank you so much. Our next presenter is my teacher, Professor Dr.